Prismatic Evolutions is finally released, and with it, the prices are doing some really insane things that we haven't seen before. The biggest hit, the Moonbreon, is going for between 1.5 to 2k, and at this point, it's really important to ask yourself, as a collector, is it worth gambling trying to hit this 1 in 1500 jackpot, or should I instead use that money that would have been spent on packs to pick up some guaranteed bangers? In this video, I'll be going over one of the most slept on parts of the Sword and Shield era, in my opinion, the trainer gallery, to hopefully help collectors both old and new pick up some great cards for an affordable price. It's got things like this Cleavor, and I'll show a couple other really sick looking cards. My name is Collections, I'm Sean and I collect things, and this is my channel where I talk about the Pokemon card hobby, give advice, and sometimes open packs. You guys seem to really enjoy my last video on some good pickups you could do for under $10, so if that type of content is what you want to see, I hope you stick around and give the channel a subscription. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I created some slides just to kind of hammer in my points. But yeah, what I wanted to say first and foremost is you don't have to be chasing down Prismatic Evolutions right now. And honestly, with the hit rates the way they are, it kind of is traumatic evolutions. And there's a lot of FOMO going on in the whole space right now. As you can see, this Umbreon doing some really stupid stuff, like I mentioned, going for what, like more than $1,500 on TCG Player. Wow. And I inserted some screenshots from eBay also about just showing how expensive it's really getting. Sylveon too, it's like absolutely insane. And so what I want to mention is that when everyone's focused on the new set, what this usually means is that some of the older sets will have a slight tick down in the amount of hype they're getting. So that means that there's less people trying to buy it, and so there's usually more supply than there is demand, and it might be a good time to really go back, reevaluate what you're looking for, and pick up these cheaper cards at the price point they're at. And so yeah, big X on those, because you don't need to be chasing down the biggest hits or the biggest sets. Just take it slow. Collecting is like a hobby, right? So you don't want to just burn out trying to always chase the biggest thing, because that's like, it's not going to be healthy. It's not sustainable. And so what should you do instead? Like I mentioned, the trainer gallery is one of the best parts of the Sword and Shield like second half, and it's so much cheaper than trying to find Prismatic Evolutions right now. Almost everything is under $10. There's a couple outliers, and I'll show some of those really big hits. But yeah, most of it is super affordable, under $10. You could pretty much pick up the entire set for under $200 for like the longest time, which is what I did a couple months ago before all the prices started spiking. So I'm really happy with that choice. And again, this list will go off of TCG Player market price like I did last time, just because it's the simplest choice, it's the easiest way, and most people use TCG Player at the end of the day. And once again, this is not Poke investing. These are just personal picks that I find are good cards for the price they're at. And so if you're wondering what is the trainer gallery, like I mentioned, it's a part of these four sets, the later half of the Sword and Shield era, which is Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, Lost Origins, and Silver Tempest. All four of these sets on their own are pretty big. There's some pretty insane chases here. Lost Origins with the Giratina, Silver Tempest with the Lugia V. But essentially, what the trainer gallery is, it's a part of this Japanese set called VMAX Climax, where it was a bunch of trainers and their Pokemon in a whole bunch of different arts. So the focus is on the relationship between these trainers and their Pokemon, and it's a 30 card subset for each of these sets. And so what that means is it's actually a really small set. These are really easy cards to pick up, and it's just a collection of regular full art Pokemon, some textured full art Pokemon, and then some full art trainers. And so what are the big hitters, if you're wondering? We have this Garchomp V with Cynthia from the Astral Radiance set, the Rayquaza VMAX from Silver Tempest, and the biggest one I think right now is the Umbreon VMAX, just because Umbreon hype is like at the all-time high right now, and that's from Brilliant Stars. And so what we were saying is these hits for the longest time were under $30. I think Rayquaza was the most expensive for a while at like around $30. Now I think the Rayquaza is doing like $70 to $90. Umbreon is also doing something very similar. But yeah, these are the big hitters. It's not true for the entirety of the set. So we can look at some other cards which are a lot cheaper and in my opinion are a better pickup. So the first one I listed is Jolteon. This is from Brilliant Stars, and it's an image of Jolteon in blue. As you can see from the price point, it's pretty much under $7. There was a short spike over the last month, but it seems to be coming down from that. And yeah, just like my last presentation, I'll just give you some facts. This is a Gen 1 Pokemon. Jolteon is one of the evolutions, so if you want to get in on the EV hype with Prismatic Evolutions, look at the trainer gallery. There's a Jolteon, a Flareon, a Vaporeon, and an Eevee. The Eevee is one of the ones I've included, but the other ones I didn't include just because I prefer Jolteon. But yeah, this is an image of Blue and Jolteon, Blue being one of the biggest trainers, I guess, of all time. People really like Blue, one of the OG trainers too. And I think this is just like a really dynamic piece of art. You see Jolteon's, I think, doing Volt Strike is what I would say. It's probably not Electric Ball, but I think the art's just really sick. And the whole yellow border thing versus like gray borders, I think for most cards, the gray border does look better. But for electric types like this, where the art's really dynamic and the yellow really complements the Pokemon itself, I think it's like a great piece. And I think it's like, for the price it's at, $7, guarantee you should pick it up. Even when it was at $4, I think that point it was like a super guaranteed pickup. But now even at $7, I think it's like a great card to pick up for the price. The next one I want to point out is N Zekrom. With the new Journey Together set coming out in a couple months and them releasing the Reshiram and N, I think it's like a great time to pick up this card as well, just because I think that might bring up some hype for this card as well, which might increase the prices a bit more. It's hard to say if like we've already reached the peak. As you can see, it went up and then it's coming down now. But if it's not, it might be a good time just to pick it up. I don't think it's going to go down significantly, just because, yeah, as we get to Journey Together and people are starting to look for those Pokemon plus trainer arts, this is one of the ones that I think might go up quite significantly. And yeah, some points I made, Gen 5 is pretty peak. I think N's pretty well-written character when it comes to Pokemon characters. N's a pretty fan-favorite character too. And N is just rating Zekrom, which looks very, very sick. But yeah, I think this card super nice to pick up. It's also from Brilliant Stars. I think a couple of them I chose are from the Brilliant Stars version of the Trainer Gallery, but I think they just had really good art for that set. And as you can see here, the Nearman Holofoil going for $8. It's like a 200% increase over the last 3 months. So yeah, like I was saying, these cards, they were super cheap for like the longest time, and a lot of people were sleeping on them. I think new collectors are coming in, as people are starting to shift their focus around. Some people did notice this and started picking them up. But I think, yeah, as like I mentioned, people go to Prismatic Evolutions. It's probably a good time right now to try and finish the set if you've been waiting on it, or if you haven't even seen the set yet, maybe start picking up some of these cards. The next one is a full art. So this card you can't really see in the image, but it's actually a textured card, and the texture is actually really nice. So it's not just like a regular V card. It's more similar to an alt art from the Sword and Shield era. And so, yeah, the art's just really sick, I think. It's just the player character. I keep forgetting the name. So Gloria is a female character. I can't remember the male character MC's name, but it's him and Calyrex on top of the Shadow Rider, which is Spectre. Yeah. And I think the art's just really cool. It's in like this Crystal Palace looking area, probably part of the Crown Tundra, but I don't think we actually saw anything like that in the Sword and Shield games. Yeah, the art's just really majestic. And like I mentioned, this is one of the textured full arts. So everything from the, I think 10 on, no, not 10 onwards, because this one is number 5 and this one's number 11. Oh, okay, well, we'll figure it out. But I think everything after the 15th card onward of all the trainer galleries, they were textured. That may or may not be true, but the texture ones were a bit harder to pull, so they did do a little bit more in terms of like pricing. But this one specifically, yeah, it's not really moving that much. I think part of it is just Gen 8 hype is not as big as like some of the other generations, but I think for the art itself, I definitely would pick it up. I've picked up, I think, 1 or 2 copies of this already. Yeah, I think the Spectre and the Glastrier and the Calyrex, the art just looks really cool. And I think the composition's really nice. Just separating the Pokemon and having a really focus on the trainer too. Yeah, and like I mentioned, the pricing is really good on this. Just $6 for a nice full art texture card. It's insane. So the next one is Eevee. Like I mentioned before, I did put one of the other Eevees on the list. This is Eevee from the Brilliant Star set as well. Another Gen 1 card. Like I mentioned, Gen 1 hype, I think, will never die down. So if you're looking for cards that you may want to just move off later to try and collect other things, Gen 1's always like a very safe bet, especially Eevee, right? You're seeing what Prismatic Evolutions is doing right now. Yeah, you can get in on the hype on Eevee without trying to break the bank. So yeah, Fact 1, Gen 1. Fact 2 is just Eevee. Eevee hype is huge right now. And Fact 3 is it's Bill. And I think Bill is the absolute GOAT. He's the one that created the PCs in the Kanto region. He's a pretty cool character. He got fused with the Pokemon temporarily. But yeah, the composition is just nice. It's Eevee chilling in his lab, just making a bit of a mess. But as you can see, Bill just looks a little happy. And yeah, for just like $6, it's a pretty good price. It's like you're essentially paying the same price as you are for like some of those illustration rares. Well, at this point, illustration rares have been starting to outpace them. And I think they've always really done that. But now you can really see that with like the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade, right? That card's going for $50 versus this $6 Eevee you can pick up. I think the choice is pretty obvious in terms of what you should be picking up if you're trying to collect on a budget and just try to pick up really nice cards without spending too much money. So the next one is another Gen 8 Pokemon. It's Corviknight VMAX. I know some people aren't the biggest fans of Gen 8. They think the designs are kind of lackluster, or they're doing too much in some places and lackluster in the others. It's a bit confusing, but I think Corviknight is one of the standout designs from the whole generation. An armored bird is a really cool design, especially for like one of the first Pokemon you can catch in the game. You can evolve it throughout, and it's still like a pretty useful Pokemon. And so, fact one, Corviknight is one of the taxis in the whole Galar region. So if you haven't played the games before, instead of flying regularly, you call a Corviknight taxi and it comes over and picks you up. And it's just a pretty cool design and a pretty cool part of just the world building of the whole Galar region. Fact two, it's a VMAX, so as you can see, he's quite the big boy. You can see his trainer, which is the taxi man, just lying on top of his head. And I think, yeah, like I mentioned, Corviknight's design is probably one of my favorites from Gen 8. Yeah, I think it's up there in terms of like Gen 8 Pokemon. But yeah, for like a textured VMAX, I don't know. The art's just really good. I feel like this card is definitely slept on. Like for $4, that's insane. That's like cheaper than like most packs at this point. So you can either buy a pack and try to gamble for like an illustration rare or like a decent hit, or you can just pick up this card for what, like $4 on TCG Player. I would ignore this like near mid Paulo direct by TCG Player because those prices are usually a bit inflated. But overall, yeah, super affordable card, super nice art. I would say if you're looking for something like this, pick it up now because you never know how this market's going to move. And the next one I have, fan favorite Pokemon, it's Gallade, but instead of having like one of the Gen 4 trainers, you're actually paired up with Benny, who is from Legends Arceus, yeah. And so the art's really sick. I like the composition. I think I'm kind of rambling about the same thing over and over again, but these arts, they just are really cool because I think part of the appeal of Pokemon is the bond between a trainer and their Pokemon, and I think the trainer gallery really encapsulates that well. You can see how Glade is doing a very similar pose to Benny in this because they're both like kind of ninjas, right? And so it's just the dynamic version of the posing and everything. I think it's just a really nice art. And if you're a big fan of Gallade, which I think Gallade is a pretty popular Pokemon, for $4, I don't think you really go wrong picking up this card. And so the last one I have listed here is the Gardevoir from Silver Tempest. And similar to my points about Gallade being one of the most favorite Pokemon of all time, I think the same applies to Gardevoir, if not more. And with Diantha being the trainer it's paired with, being one of the most fan favorite, I think, in terms of champions. You got Cynthia, you got Diantha, you got Blue. I think who else is really popular, but I feel like those three are probably the most popular. I think it's, yeah, a really nice card. Composition's great, and it's literally going for $1.36 market price, which is crazy to me. So if you could pick up this card for $2, I don't see why you wouldn't, especially if you don't have one in your collection already. And the art, yeah, it's just like majestic. It's just really nice art. I don't know how much more I can say. But yeah, if this doesn't convince you to pick up stuff from the trainer gallery, I'm not really sure what will. And so why am I doing this? I just want to, like I did with the other video, point out that instead of chasing the FOMO of like the Prismatic Evolutions, trying to get like evolution and stuff like that, there's always more affordable options if you do your research and you look at other cards in the market. And the other big point is that singles are definitely the way to go when you want to fill out your collection and you're not about just like trying to rush that dopamine hit. As you can see from like pretty much all the cards I listed, they're all like what, under like, this one's under $1 or around $1, under $5, under $5. So they're all like under the price of a pack. Okay, well, this one's a little more expensive, and I think the Jolteon is also a bit more expensive, but I think if you can get most of these cards for like, yeah, under the price of the pack or near the price of a pack, I don't see why you wouldn't, and instead try to like gamble for other cards. Well, I know why, because it's fun to open, but yeah, just something to think about. And so I just wanted to link again all of the trainer gallery cards you might be wanting to look at. So like I mentioned before, Umbreon, Rayquaza, these two are doing like pretty insane things. It's still a lot cheaper than the Moonbreon from the new set. I think this art's like really cool too. It's Karen and Umbreon just in a city. I feel like Umbreon's art's always in a city, but yeah, it's just like really nice art here. And I think the whole thing is just peak Pokemon art. Because like I mentioned before, Pokemon's all about trainers and their Pokemon. And so I think the whole trainer gallery just really captured that feeling. And if you're not convinced by this, I don't know what will convince you. But yeah, take a look. I'd say pick up some of these cards at the price point they're at. Don't fall into the FOMO if you can, and hopefully this helps with your collecting journey. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this content. If you want to see more stuff like this, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to make more lists and go over some of the other cards I think are sleeper hits right now. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later.